Welcome back to this episode of the Light Path Podcast. I'm your host, Kirsten Leo, and today we are on episode 3 of my Law of Detachment series. So if you have been following along, you will know that I've discussed the Law of Detachment and what that actually is. And then I did an episode all about how pulling back can absolutely propel us forward in really aligned and powerful ways. And today I want to talk to you about the Law of Detachment and how it can really collapse timelines, i.e., how the Law of Detachment actually really helps us to open up to brand new realities. The last episode of this series will be next week, where Cassie, our beautiful cacao ceremonialist, is going to come on the podcast, and we're going to talk about detachment from the outcomes that didn't happen, like the disappointments, and how to really alchemize that and detach from that so it doesn't weigh us down and continue to block us. So hopefully you're getting a lot from these episodes and you're maybe diving deeper into alchemizing detachment as a really powerful and honest energetic tool and principle. And today is a goodie. So you'll know that the Law of Detachment isn't about, apathy or bypassing or indifference. It is an energetic art form. It is a state of energetic neutrality that really allows your energy to move more freely. And that freedom is exactly what is going to allow you to kind of quantum leap into new realities. So this is what we're going to go to deeper in today. And we're going to explore how attachment keeps entangled, it keeps you entangled in old timelines. Attachment is really about keeping you stuck really where you don't want to be. And we're going to look at how detachment opens up new vibrational realities and how you can consciously start collapsing timelines by releasing the kind of like this or nothing energy, that desperate, that contracted frequency that keeps you looping through the same patterns or timelines over and over again. So by the end of today's episode, my intention is that you will see detachment not as something to do after things fall apart, but as a spiritual technology for expansion, co-creation, and freedom that you always are acting upon. So let's dive in. So we're going to start here. What do I mean by timeline collapse? Like, you may have heard spiritual people talk about that, like collapsing timelines. But from an energetic perspective, a timeline is simply a potential path. It is a vibrational sequence that aligns with your current beliefs, your emotions, and your energetic frequency. Remember, we live in a vibrational world, and we are always existing within a timeline that matches your current vibration, which is why we say change is so easy when you understand vibration. It's hard to do, but the concept of it is pretty easy. So because every time you shift your energy, your thoughts, and your emotional baseline, you are subtly shifting the trajectory that you are on. And that is why when people talk about quantum leaps, they're not actually jumping anywhere. They're simply matching to a higher, faster, clearer, maybe more desired frequency that already exists, like it's already happening. One where maybe their desired outcome or their desired experience already lives. But here's the catch. Attachment locks us into old timelines. And so when you are attached to an outcome, a person, or a specific path, what you're actually really attached to is the version of yourself that needed it. So attachment says, this is the only way. This is what needs to happen. This person, this job, this outcome is my ticket to happiness, success, fulfillment, purpose, fill in the blank. I talked about this on last week's episode of the podcast in my personal experience of that. And I have been grappling with the law of detachment very intimately in my most recent dark night of the soul that I've been in for a good 18 months to 2 years. And so when I talk about the law of detachment and when I teach it, I'm teaching it from a place of a path very well worn. I didn't just walk it. I went back, I went over it again, and then I decided to skip it and then hop it and then run it. And then I've tried it all. So I'm coming at you from a place of lived experience because I know that attachment creates an energetic tether. It keeps us entangled with timelines that no longer are in alignment with our evolution. And energetically, attachment is like trying to run forward whilst having a rope tied around you, around your waist that keeps you like tethered to the wall or to the old reality. So we may be moving and we may be moving really effectively and fast and putting in all the effort. But if we can't expand beyond the detachment from that rope, then we're just going to be running on the spots in that old timeline. So detachment is just taking off that rope. And what that does is it frees our energy to align with like the next available version of a reality that actually matches our expansion rather than what we know to be true or what old versions of ourselves thought we wanted and we needed. So I want to normalize this because attachment is really human. Our brains crave certainty and our egos want control. Our brains don't actually just crave certainty. Our brain's job is to create certainty. Literally, the neurological pathways in our brain are only formed by what we already know, have experienced, have witnessed, or believe to be true. So in order to break away from that certainty, we need to break free from what we know to be true and be willing to sit in the discomfort of waiting for new neurological pathways to form that are of a totally different reality. The master of this work is Dr. Joe Dispenza. I highly recommend you read his book. I'm going to forget the title of it. It's the one with the white cover. The Power of Being You, Becoming You. Look up Dr. Joe Dispenza. Read anything of his because he talks about the same thing over and over again because it's a big concept, and as he should. Watch his social media or listen to his interviews on podcasts. He's brilliant. But what we're really doing is we're attaching to things because we think that by holding on to what we know, we're protecting ourselves. We're protecting ourselves from the unknown, which potentially has rejection, disappointment, or being wrong, and all those things. But energetically, what we're creating is resistance. So think about it. Like, have you ever wanted something so badly that you have suffocated it? I know I have. Like you check your phone waiting for the message to come through. You're over planning the project. You micromanage an outcome because you didn't trust that it would work out and just unfold the way it should unless you did control it. Oh my gosh, I've been there so many times. There's like, and this is not new news, the old saying, a watch pot never boils. That's attachment energy. It's rooted in fear. It's fear that you won't get it. It's fear that if you let it go, it won't come back. It's fear that slows down energetic flow and movement, and it keeps you anchored in the past. But in contrast to that, detachment is born from trust. Trust in your energy, trust in your alignment, and trust in the universal's infinite intelligence. Trust in self. This is why knowing yourself, anchoring in yourself, being in such a deep, intimate relationship with yourself is the most empowering and powerful thing you will ever do. Because it's not about not caring. That is not what detachment is. It's about caring so much about your alignment that you refuse to compromise your peace for control. I'm going to say that again. Detachment is not about not caring. Detachment is about caring so much that about your alignment to what it is that you desire or who it is that you truly are in your authenticity, that you refuse to compromise your peace for control. That is where timelines collapse happen. Not because you stop feeding this energy of lack, of fear, and of attachment. Those timelines just lose their charge. They collapse. And your energy is reabsorbed by the quantum field, where it can recognize or reorganize that you're ready for something higher, faster, and more aligned to play with. And here's where it gets really, really fun, because detachment doesn't just help you feel better. It literally opens up new energetic pathways that didn't exist when you were forcing, when you were controlling, when you were over-identifying with an outcome, when you were attached. In quantum terms, every possibility always and already exists. There is versions of you that are thriving, that are in love, that are abundant, that are fulfilled. It's already there. You don't need to make it happen. I hate that saying, make it happen. Because you don't need to. You just need to match the frequency of that version of yourself. So when you release attachment, you stop broadcasting, I don't have it, and you start emulating, I'm available for it. And that's a completely different signal to the universe. In last week's episode of the podcast, I shared with you how a big realization that I've had over the last 2 years is how painful it is to be so attached to a desire, to walk that really delicate line between knowing what you want and what you want to experience and what you want to align with, and not being attached to it because all you're broadcasting is, I don't have it. And that's really the underlying feeling, that lack every day. You wake up and you don't have it. This is why vision boards, tread carefully. This is why all that pseudo-spiritual manifestation BS that I hate, because we are primed through all of those practices without the solid foundation underneath them. We're primed to be attached to the outcome, and all we're broadcasting is, I don't have it, I don't have it, I don't have it. And unless you have this deep knowledge and practice of detachment, along with other self-concept and self-realization and relationship with self stuff, all of that can be really harmful. And it was harmful to me. And I know it was harmful to me. What I wanted was hurting me. And I had to master the law of detachment in order to give myself the freedom to be in the experiences and trust that the law of detachment requires of us. Because detachment does allow us to become energetically compatible with higher realities where attachment doesn't. Because we're no longer bound to the density of fear, lack, doubt, control. If you just heard a big bang outside, really sorry. That was a really big bang. So this is why I often hear people say, the moment I stopped caring, it happened. The second I stopped looking for a relationship, I found the love of my life. The second I stopped trying really hard for a baby, we got pregnant. The minute you let go, the right thing showed up. And this is not magic. This is law. This is energetic law. When your vibration rises beyond the frequency of your old identity and the old timeline, it can't literally hold you anymore, and it collapses, and you naturally phase into the next timeline, the next one that matches your energetic signature, which means that's why detachment isn't about apathy or spiritual bypassing, because if you just say, I don't want it anymore, and there's nothing to replace it with, because you're not doing the inner work simultaneously. And one of the biggest traps that I have fallen into and that I see people fall into is the all or nothing thinking. Because when we say if it's not this job, if it's not this person, if it's not this plan, then it's over. Or if this launch doesn't work, I've failed. If I don't get this specific thing, I'll never get another chance at this again. All of that crap. This is attachment dressed up as certainty, and it keeps you locked into a really narrow vibrational bandwidth. Okay, so I know I'm in the middle of teaching this concept, but I just have to say, if you were hearing bangs in the background of this, like, just this is for future me. If I can't remove them, then we're just going to go ahead with it. They are throwing tiles off a rooftop right outside my place, and I'm so in the zone of this podcast that I just desperately want to keep going. So appreciate you if you're bearing with me through it. But back to Law of Detachment. Maybe I just have to detach from this being perfect. But really, that kind of attachment dressed up as certainty of like this person, this job, this plan, whatever, has to be this or nothing. And I've said that so many times in my life. It keeps us locked in a really narrow vibrational bandwidth, because ultimately, like, vibration doesn't function on ultimatums. It operates on openness. And also remember too that like vibrational frequency doesn't operate on morality either. So like being good and noble and virtuous, like being those things are important probably for your own values and your own sense of cleanliness and authenticity. But it's like, I've been so good, I've done all the right things, like why isn't it happening? That's a form of ultimatum as well. So remember, it operates on openness. So when we're saying like this or nothing, or I've been so good, I've done the work, like I've done my part, come on, you're basically saying vibrationally that there's no space for infinite or something better or timing, or like you have the whole picture type thing. So the law of detachment really says like, I'm open to what is aligned. And if it is not this, it's because something greater is coming through. I'm trying to detach, but now there's a plane going overhead. It's all happening here today when I record this. And all of this doesn't mean that we give up on our goals. Like, it doesn't mean I stop recording this podcast, right? It means we just stay fluid. We hold the vision. We let go of the form. We trust the timing. We trust the unfolding, okay? That is energetic mastery. It is the essence of quantum creation. So let's talk about you and who is the energetic architect behind all of this. Because every attachment is really an identity attachment. I'll say that again. Every attachment that we have is really an identity attachment. Once you know this, you can get really clever at actually outsmarting your ego. We do not just get attached to people or outcomes or jobs or circumstances. We get attached to who we think we will be when we get them, or who we don't want to be when we started wanting them. So for example, you might be attached to proving that you're really successful because an old version of you once felt unseen. You might be attached to a relationship because an old version of you believed that love had to come through that person. You might be attached to a business direction or a career direction because an old version of you thought that that was the only path to your purpose or the only form it would create. You might be attached to a certain outcome because you believe you will only ever be fulfilled or feel loved or valued or can be the biggest expression of yourself in that context. So when you begin to detach, those old identities have to start to dissolve. And yes, it can feel really, really uncomfortable. You might feel like you're losing something, but in truth, you're actually alchemizing energy back into your higher self. You're taking what you were giving away to lower versions of yourself, attached versions of yourself, and you're feeding possibility. And timelines collapse when things no longer resonate with the identity that created the timeline in the first place. You collapse the timeline by chasing, like, you don't collapse it by chasing the change. You collapse it by becoming the energy of your next chapter. That's why a lot of energetic work can be around like act as if. But remember, if you're just acting as if you're cosplaying, it's only part of the story. You also have to understand, nurture, maybe heal, maybe sit with the version of yourself that thought they wanted it, and understand that that isn't necessarily true of how they were thinking. So we've got to hold both sides of ourselves, which is why self-concept work, which is why shadow work, which is why energetic healing and clearing are all such important tools to complement the acting as if, or stepping into that new energetic timeline. That's how new opportunities and people and synchronicities really do start appearing. They were always there, but we couldn't see them through the lens of attachment that we were looking through. So let's get really practical. Here are some energetic shifts that you can start to make today to embody the frequency of detachment to open new timelines. First of all, observe, don't grip. When you notice yourself spiraling into control, we all do it, pause. So instead of trying to fix it, observe it. Awareness is detachment in action. And I really want you to remember that. Awareness is detachment in action. It moves you from in the story to witnessing the story, which instantly elevates your frequency. Stay really curious, not certain. Curiosity is the opposite of attachment. So when you say, oh, I wonder what else is possible, I wonder what might happen, you open new energetic doors immediately that certainty has kept closed for you. This is a hard one. Release outcome obsession. It's hard because like with all the new age spiritual stuff, they tell you to obsess over outcome, and partly it's true, but not robustly so. So ask yourself, do I really want the thing, or do I want the feeling I believe it will bring? Do I really want the thing, or do I really want the validation or security or prestige or whatever that I feel I'll have that it will bring? Because when you focus on the feeling and you come back to your authentic desires in terms of feeling, such as love, joy, freedom, peace, and cultivate it now, then you vibrate in that reality where those feelings already exist. I'll tell you a personal story. Once I said to a healer of mine, it has to be this person. It was an ex. It has to be them. It's them. And she said to me something that I thought was very offensive and shocking at the time. And she said, yeah, but love is just love. So who does it matter who it is? And I was like, oh, it matters. I was so offended. But she was 100% right. Love is love. What makes me think I wouldn't trust myself to fall in love with someone that I was actually in love with? And love is just love. It actually doesn't matter who it is. And love can come in very different forms, in very different times, in very many different ways. But if we're attached to has to be this love, or it has to be a lifetime of love. I see that a lot. People really attach to the idea that I've got one soulmate and one love and it has to be this forever. It's so suffocating. I literally feel like someone's hands are around my neck when I say that. Okay, another practical tool. Let the universe surprise you. When you're truly detached, you allow synchronicity to do the heavy lifting, and your job is alignment. The universe can handle the logistics. Hold your vision, loosen your grip. It's okay to have goals and desires. It's important to have goals and desires. It gives you a lot of information about who you are becoming. Detachment doesn't mean dropping them. It means holding them openly and lightly. We can't hold water with clenched fists. We have to open our palms. The lighter you grip, the faster it can move through. These aren't just mindset tools. They are vibrational calibrations. They are literally reprogramming your field to collapse what is outdated and open you up to what is truly destined. So here's something that I really want you to feel into, that detachment isn't disconnection, it's actually devotion. When you are detached, you're devoted to truth, not fantasy. You're devoted to alignment, not to control. And you're devoted to your highest expression, not your old expectations. Detachment is so sacred because it honors your evolution. It says, I trust my path is unfolding perfectly even when I don't understand the details. That is the energy of leadership, of maturity, and of expansion. When you live in detachment, you start noticing how much lighter life feels. You stop needing everything to mean something, and you stop waiting for validation or guarantees. You stop waiting for the thing to get to the feeling. And that freedom puts you deep in each and every experience in the presence. That freedom frequency becomes your magnetism. You become the person who naturally attracts aligned opportunities because your energy is open. It's not clinging and closed off. So as we close out this third episode on the law of detachment, I would love for you to remember this. Every time you release an attachment, you collapse an old timeline. And every time you choose to trust over control, you open up a new one. Every time you stop chasing, you start embodying, you leap. You are not behind, you are not stuck. You are not doing it wrong. You are simply in the process of collapsing what no longer matches who you are becoming and stepping into a really strong and elevated, ascended version of energetic maneuvering. This is the real art of detachment. Not waiting for your life to change, but becoming the change frequency first. If this episode resonated with you, and obviously if you are ready to deepen your energetic mastery, then the best place to do that is inside the Moon membership, because we are doing that 26 times a year at every new and full moon, which syncs in with the divine feminine cycle, the real calendar, that real place of deep connection. We are doing the rituals, the guided teachings, the meditations to help you do that. And you can find all of that obviously at the Light Path Collective. But if this episode helped you, please feel free to share it with someone that you think could, really benefit from it or resonate with it. And I just want to say thank you for tuning in today, for growing and expanding and choosing your path of light. Remember, detachment isn't the end of desire. It is the beginning of authentic alignment. Until I see you next time, stay basking in your light.